Hi everybody, it's Precious Pioneer and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have new videos every Thursday, so if you're new, welcome. Today I kind of wanted to talk about, what if we had the audacity to believe that one person can actually make a difference? I think that deep down, we know that there's the butterfly effect. Like if we did not exist, then obviously there'd be some sort of ripple. The world would be impacted in some way. But why is it when it comes to things that are like a little bit larger, something that may feel overwhelming, or when we look at celebrities or billionaires or all these other people who are people just like us, we seem like our opinions change on the matter, like as if it's an impossible mission, I can personally attest, and I'm sure as all of you guys can, that it's been almost over a year since COVID and the pandemic has swept through the whole world and kind of shaken us up a little bit, and sometimes it feels like it's super out of our control and we can't really do anything. And so I've had this sensation of just lying there and just waiting for the book of Revelations to take us over, which seems a little grim, but I think that addressing this can kind of maybe help us to have the inspiration to grasp it for ourselves and to take a step forward and to work on things that we're passionate about or things that we want to do better for the world. One of my biggest things is I always try to leave a place or situation better than how I found it. I know that I can't control everything. I can't control the fact that the climate crisis is just getting bigger and bigger and more drastic, and the news is just overwhelming. And I know that I can't control the giant omega companies that play a large part in destroying the world, and corporate capitalism and all these other huge issues that are mountainous, that have developed into something that one person, it could just feel yeah, no, that's a wrap. We can't do anything about this right now. It's your plastic straws aren't doing anything. Your recycling isn't doing anything at this moment because the recycling system is broken as well. It's just, it feels like sometimes it's just a huge avalanche coming for us, And this video is not meant to be grim. It's more to be a little bit motivational, because I want to share these things because these are the thoughts that I feel as well. If you feel this way, this is how I felt for last year, and it kind of puts you in a slump. It kind of makes you feel a little sad. It kind of makes you feel what can I do? And you shoulder shrug, and I'm here to tell you, no, you can. You definitely can. Whatever cause or issue in the world, or whether it be in your life or something that you want to fix, you can. And one person really does make a difference. I think of it like the domino effect. I think of it as the pebble in the water, whatever metaphorical reference you want to throw in that's super cliche, it applies, And so for me, my biggest thing that I really am passionate about is obviously I'm a chef, so I care about food systems, sustainable food systems, and food waste, and these sort of issues. And it's kind of funny, well, not funny, but no matter what angle or problem you take into account, kind of impacts us all. So food impacts us so much more than you could ever realize, or maybe you do, and that contributes so much to the climate crisis and how we obtain our foods, with the meat and dairy production, and greener initiatives for agriculture, and our supermarkets, and how they throw away 40% of all food produced ends up in a landfill somewhere, So it's all these different things, these little things that I really care about, and it's well, what the heck can I do? And so I'm here to tell you what you can do. For me, if you're interested in working towards the climate crisis, if you're wow, I want to help out and I just do not know what to do or where to get started, then I have a couple of tips that you can do, that we can do together. I will share that with you. But if your goal is something else, and you want to impact the world somehow, and you just don't feel like you can, and you feel overwhelmed, then I suggest to you to take small little steps, because whether you recognize it or not, it definitely does play a role. Whether you want to tutor kids who need extra tutoring for school because maybe online classes is really difficult for them during COVID times, if you want to create a donation drive for families in need because they were displaced from their jobs because of the unemployment rates right now, if you want to volunteer at your local church or do a beach cleanup because you know that the oceans are really shitty right now as well, if you want to do that because it's summer and there's tourism here, at least in Barcelona, and there's garbage garbage everywhere. It's so bad. So every Saturday, you know, you can go pick up garbage with a community, something like this. There are so many ways to share the love. There's so much love to give. There's so many places and areas in the world that need it. And so I want to make this video to encourage you to maybe even create a community here online to like bring that hope back, you know, because it's so easy to be buried in the news articles, because trust me, I feel it every morning when I see a new city on fire, when I see the Amazon burning down. Like it hits you really bad when you hear icebergs are melting and then like viruses from decades and generations ago are resurfacing. That shit's scary, but you know, like you have to let go of things that you can't control, and because it will just make you anxious, but like you can also grasp everything that you can control. Like I have so many like quotes. There's one that says like hold on, let me find it. It says, okay, a quote that I found today, because I was like, you know what, there's so many people in this world who have like lived their lives and we will always remember them because they changed, you know, their community in a way, and there's so many people we don't know and they've impacted their community, you know. And there's one quote by Edward Everett Hale, and it says, "I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something, and I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do." I think that quote is really powerful, because like sometimes it's like you want to do everything and you know that you can't, but at the same time, like focus on the things that you can. And if everybody can focus on the things that they can, because everybody has different skills and different mindsets and different lives, but if everybody focuses on your purpose and what you can do to the best of your ability and give as much love into the world as possible, then, you know, I suck at computers or anything technology is really just not my strong suit. Like I could study it and work really hard, but it takes me like 10 times the amount of effort as someone who's like, yeah, numbers, no problem, you know? So these are two different brain mindsets, but like if we focus, like it applies to our skill sets and what we want to contribute to the world as well. You know, like I think my biggest thing is talking, communication, hence my YouTube channel, and then also food. And so like I like to focus on these things because this is my strong suit. Whatever that is for you, that's maybe where you need to like put your 2 cents in, your votes for your legislation, all these other things to help impact the world in a better place. And so for you guys who are interested in helping with the climate crisis, for you guys who are interested in trying to lower your carbon footprint, because this is what I'm passionate about, I will share with you 6 different tips that I could recommend to you that could actually make a large difference. I mean, I'm sure you've heard them so many times before, but I hope to give you maybe a new perspective to make it a little bit easier for you, because you know me, I always have an anecdote with everything, so maybe it can inspire you in some way. The first thing, obviously, is to, if you want to help out, is to vote people that match with the same ideals that you have. I think the biggest issue right now is that we have a lot of people in legislation wherever you are in the world. I'm from the States, and I want more green initiative people in office. I want people who care about reducing like big gas companies. I want people who care about greener agriculture and not just stripping all of the nutrients from the soil and then leaving it like a wasteland. I want people who have stricter regulations when it comes to fishing and like the nets that they keep, and like overfishing and all these different food policies. I want higher fines for people who break these rules, because it's really not an option where it should be like under the table anymore. I want higher charge fees and all these different things for farmers who decide to use pesticides on produce, these sort of things. Like I want people like this. So in that case, like do your research, vote. If you need to write an email or to contact your legislation, to find groups online who are already working towards these initiatives, join those groups, sign those petitions, do your part on this element, because at the end of the day, like as much as we want to do everything on an individual level, we can, but a bunch of individuals as a group is how the nations and like things get done. So this is my biggest tip for number 1. Number 2 is to eat less dairy and meat. And I know that's really controversial, but the facts are what the facts are. I don't really know what to tell you. Like if you have a personal preference to eating a lot of meat and dairy, that is fine to a certain extent, because I know that it can be backed by cultural like cuisine and all these different things, but understand the giant impact it has on the environment and the world around you. So if you are a fan of meat, maybe consider eating less of it. Also consider where your meat comes from. I think the biggest issue is not necessarily always what you eat, it's like where it comes from. And so like if you're purchasing your chicken from like those giant farm coop houses or whatever, maybe go to your local farm. It's a little bit more expensive, but this is the cost that you pay for an economically sustainable way of living and eating. And I don't think it should be gate kept. I understand there's a lot of layers to more expensive green sustainable eating because of poverty levels and how certain systems run in the states of access to food. Food is a very complex issue, but if you have the resources and the money to be able to afford it, then I highly suggest that you switch over to something a little bit more sustainable. Also, red meat and things like this, cows and the cow production, greenhouse gases and all of these sort of things, just consider reducing it. So if you eat meat 5 days a week, maybe cut it down to 3, or how they have those trends of meatless Mondays, consider this. Also, dairy production as well contributes to a lot of the negative things and the environment. So maybe just try oat milk. It is so good. Try a veggie a nut-based milk or an alternative, and give it a try. I understand so many people love cheeses and things like this. I do too. I'm not the perfect vegan. I'm not even vegan, but most of my diet is this way, just because I want to do well for the world and contribute in any little way that I can. And the funny thing about food is that it heavily relies on the market. So as soon as you want greener produce and as soon as the market really changes dramatically in the sense of what we want to eat, then the market kind of follows along. Have you noticed that in the last couple of years, the options for vegetable and milk alternatives and even meat alternatives has drastically increased in supermarkets? It's because we demand it, and so we can actually make an individual change on where we spend our money. And so I wanted to share that with you, because even if you feel I skipped my steak this one day or whatever, it really does make a difference. You consuming less is less money for the people who are in the large industries. And if everybody in my community of 50 people, let's say, skips it, that's a lot of money that's being in our pockets used towards other things that we really want to support. I think the biggest way to support something is where your money goes. And so keep that in mind if you really care about the environment. I know that not eating meat and dairy is really controversial, but I don't think it should be. I think even health-wise, it could be really beneficial as well. So there's so many different complex issues related to this, but that's my biggest tip. If you can afford it and you have the privilege and the opportunity to be able to go in a more sustainable route and seek out local farmers, look into your fishing laws of where you even get your fish from, that's a really big deal as well. And I think the biggest tip that I can give you when you're consuming food products is the shorter the distance it gets to from the field, the farm, the sea to you, the better and more sustainable it is. That's the best tip and the best way to look out for the best foods to eat. In this case, if you order pine nuts or something and they're shipped from across the world, just know that, and you paid maybe $2 for it, $5, just know that it wasn't sustainably sourced. These are things that you have to consider when you consume food like this. But anyway, I can talk about food forever. Going on to the next tip would be to cut down on flying. I know that that's maybe impossible for some people, or maybe some people only fly for vacations, whatever. This is not about you. It's more about people who maybe you travel a lot for work. Consider opting in to video conferences if you can or have the opportunity. Instead of flying every month and every week, you try to cut down and lower your carbon footprint in that way, because flights use a lot of gas, as you know. And so if you can help with that sort of thing and opt into a greener way to go and attend these meetings and get that information that you can, maybe that would be better. I know that in the business world, networking is the most important, but also maybe we can find greener initiatives to do that. We have proven time and time again over this past year that Zoom calls work to a certain extent. Maybe we can develop a better technology in the future that could host these conferences in a more green and sustainable way. But if you do have that option, then maybe opt to fly less. Going into tip number 4 would be, the next one would be to skip your car if you can. I know that it may be inconvenient. Trust me, I know. So this is where the anecdote comes in, because I had a car and I used to drive to my university every single day for class. And I had to drive around and around the university looking for parking, and then drive around and around again to drive home. And literally it was maybe a mile and a half from my house. And I know in the States it's so convenient to just hop in your car and run to Target or something, or run to the gas station, or like run to all these little stores just to pick up snacks or whatever. But these miles add up and they're really unnecessary. So my biggest tip, if you have a car, because I know that the US can kind of be a little sprawly, like it's not like Europe where you can hop on a metro and then you're just taken there, or you just bike around. Oftentimes, like a lot of the cities aren't built for walking or biking in the best way. And so I recommend, like, if you need, only go when you need something and try to go in like one trip. I think we've gotten really comfortable in the sense of like, oh yeah, let me hop by the store and like go pick something up and then go back, and then miles and miles here, like using gas with your car. But I recommend, like, go one time for grocery shopping in that week, if that's your day to go grocery shopping. Get all the things you need, all your snacks, all your deodorants, whatever the heck you need at Target, and like just go in one trip, and then use your car as less as possible when it comes to things like this. I know that people commute to work and all these different things, but if you are close enough, like within like a mile or two, like try to pick up biking. I know it's not for everybody, and then, you know, there's all kinds of like weather and disabilities that play into a factor, but what I'm saying is, like, if you can, try it, go for it. Because I had really sustainable like green friends in college, and so this is, at first I thought it was super weird that they biked everywhere, because I'm like, why don't you just take the car? It's faster. You get there and you're all sweaty. What the heck? We're in Orlando, Florida. Like, why put ourselves through all of this? But they're like, well, there's no point in like driving for a mile and then a mile back. That's 2 miles. You could easily walk that, or you could bike it and get there in like 10 minutes. You know, it's like the same sort of thing. It takes the same amount of time, if not more, in your car because of all the red lights and all these different things. Like, you know what? Okay, so I bought a bike, and that whole year I biked everywhere, and I did not take my car unless it was like 3 miles or more, because then that would take a decent amount of time, you know. But I think the payoff for my health, for the joy of, like, when you bike, you see things on your route that you don't ever see in your car. Like, you run into people in your community, you say hello, you notice the birds and the trees. Like, it's so cliche. I'm telling you, it's so cliche, but it's like one of the best feelings, like biking or walking and being out in nature. Like, normally when you're in your car, you could do it too, I'm sure. You're in your car, play your music, it's kind of loud maybe, you turn on your AC, you're just driving, you're stuck in traffic, it doesn't bother you because you're listening music, whatever. But like, you feel like you're in your own bubble, you miss everything on the outside. And so my biggest thing that I really loved when I was biking is, like, I like met the neighbor, or I heard the dogs barking. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know my neighbor had dogs, you know, all these like little cliche things that, I don't know, I really enjoyed, like being immersed in like nature, I guess. So that is my biggest thing. If you can reduce your car, like figure out a schedule for yourself, because we don't need it as often as we need it. Because trust me, like, I used to just take my car, oh yeah, let's just go for a drive for no reason. But these are the biggest things that we can do on an individual level to like reduce our carbon footprint. And my fifth tip is to respect green spaces and to reduce your waste. So whether it comes to like green parks, your streets, your neighborhood, all these different things, just reduce as much. Like, first off, respect it. Like, you know, don't throw garbage everywhere. When people get, my biggest pet peeve is when people go to the beach and they litter everywhere, because all of that stuff ends up in the ocean if nobody picks it up, you know. And like, people think that bananas, all these different things, cigarette butts, whatever, like they throw it on the ground, it ends up in the ocean. And once it's in the ocean, it's like really hard to get out. It's really hard. And so like, don't take your sunglasses in the ocean to go to a swim, because you know they're gonna fall off and then end up in the ocean. Like, that is my biggest pet peeve. Like, and like, be careful about the sunblock you're using. Like, I know it's summer, like all these little things add up, you know. Like, you may say, I'm like, oh, you know, it's only one pair, you know, whatever, but can you imagine the millions of people that go to just Barcelona Beach alone? But like, we're not the only beach. Like, people love to go to Orlando, people love to go to California. That is like millions of sunglasses that are just chilling in the ocean, and that is only sunglasses. I'm sure people have lost trunks, have lost chapsticks, have lost a bunch of stuff. So just keep in mind, like, the biggest, and that's only the beach. I'm saying, like, respect all of nature's things, green things, as you can. And the second thing is like to reduce your waste and consumption. Fast fashion, if you can chillax on like buying Shein and like all of those really like glorified Instagram cheap clothing that like only lasts you maybe a month before there's a tear or like something happens and you have to throw it away. Try to avoid things like that. If you can, like, get a little bit, something that's a little bit more sustainable, like sustainably sourced, and then that will last you a long time. Like, it's okay to have clothes that will last you a long time. I've had this dress for maybe like 4 years now, and I still like it. It's so cute. But things like this, you want clothes that will stay with you in the long run, you know, like the whole buying on Amazon plasticky things, like things that are cheap, poorly made, so they only last a very short amount of time before you have to throw it away. You want things that you can keep or for a longer amount of time before you have to toss it, because all of these little like things, the plastic wrapping or whatever, plastic as well, like not everything's recyclable, and especially since the recycling system's kind of broken right now, because like I can go into recycling forever. I'm not going to explain that right now, but you can like look it up and look how all the plastic and garbage is like building up, and these are the individual decisions that we can make to help our planet, you know. I think, oh, one final tip that I have for you guys is that you don't have to do all of these things as an individual. Like my biggest thing to help support you, to help you keep accountable, to have the motivation and the drive of others, is to talk to others about it. Talk about things you're passionate about, things that you want to do in your community to be better, things that if you want to get a group to clean the beach, then get a group of people to clean the beach. Like talk to people on Facebook. Find a community with people with the similar passions as you, and it can help you drive and be a part of like the movement of the climate crisis or whatever sort of community that you want to be a part of. Because I wanted to create this video to say that you need to have the audacity to believe in yourself, because one person can certainly make a difference. And it's like a drop, like I'm gonna keep throwing a bunch of cliches at you, but it's like the little drops, and eventually you'll get the ocean, you'll eventually get a pool of water. And I don't know if you've ever seen that like that picture or photograph of like a rock that hit, or a drop that hit the rock for maybe years or whatever, and it left this huge indent or whatever, and it like eventually broke through. It's things like this, you know, like eventually we will break through and like be able to change the world for a positive thing, but only if you take the tiny step and you're that drop of water, you know. So individuals make a huge difference, and I wanted to share that with you today to motivate you, to inspire you. I hope that you take one of my little climate change tips, because this is something I'm passionate about. Leave a comment below of like different organizations or like different passions that you want to do and be a part of. Let me know what initiatives that you're going to take up today, or like how you plan to make a difference as an individual, because I would love to hear that. I'd love to cheer you on. But yeah, thanks for watching today's video. I know it was a little bit long, but I don't know, I really like sitting here and talking with you guys. If you like these kind of talking, relaxing videos, definitely let me know. Maybe consider giving this video a thumbs up, because that just helps to support me and the creation of these videos. But other than that, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.